It's December 14th, 1966. A man is lying in a hospital bed in Burbank, California. He's 65 years old. He can't get up. He can barely move. Lung cancer has been eating through him for weeks, and the cobalt therapy isn't working anymore. But his mind is somewhere else. His mind is in Florida. 27,000 acres of swampland and orange groves that he's been buying in secret for years. A project so ambitious that nobody at his company fully understands it. A city of the future. A place where technology and community and imagination converge into something the world has never seen. He can't get to Florida. He can't even get out of bed, so he uses what's above him. The acoustic tiles on the hospital room ceiling become his map. He points at one tile and says, "That's where the monorail goes." He points at another, "That's the residential district." He traces his finger across the ceiling, laying out roads and buildings and green spaces for a city that exists only in his head. At one point, he stops pointing and says, "That's where we'll put a bench so that Lily and I can sit and see all the happy people coming in." He dies the next morning at 9:35. He never sees the bench. He never sees the park. He never sees any of it. His brother finishes it for him. And then his brother dies too, 79 days later. The company they built is worth $94 billion. The mouse they drew is the most recognizable character on Earth. And the bench, or something like it, is there in a park in Florida where the happy people come in every day, 20 million of them a year. This is that story. Hey, this is Yarrow and welcome to Corrp. So here's the thing about Disney. Everyone thinks they know this story. The mouse, the castle, the theme parks, the fairy tales. It's so deeply embedded in the culture that most people can't even remember a time before Disney was part of their lives. It's wallpaper. It's the logo that plays before the movie starts. It's the thing you grew up on and then brought your own kids to experience. And you didn't really think about who built it or what it cost them. But the actual story, the real story of how this company came to exist, is one of the most extraordinary things I've ever researched. It starts with a family of Irish immigrants who came to Canada with nothing. It goes through bankruptcy, betrayal, a mother's death that one of the founders blamed himself for until the day he died, a brother who literally walked out of a tuberculosis ward to say yes to a business pitch, a hostile takeover, a helicopter crash that killed the one man holding the empire together, a boardroom revolt led by the founder's nephew, and a CEO who got fired and then unfired in one of the most dramatic power moves in corporate history. I mean, the Disney family history alone, before you even get to Mickey Mouse, reads like a novel. And then the company itself has this arc that just doesn't stop. It goes from two brothers in a garage to a $94 billion global empire. And almost every decade along the way, something happens that should have destroyed it. It never dies. It comes close multiple times, but it never dies. And the characters. Walt himself is obviously the center of this thing, but the people around him are just as fascinating. His brother Roy, who handled every dollar and died 79 days after finally finishing the thing Walt asked him to build. Michael Eisner, who came in and tripled the company's value and then couldn't stop himself from blowing it up. Bob Iger, whose father had bipolar disorder and who spent his entire career trying to prove something and then pulled off the most extraordinary acquisition run in entertainment history. Bob Chapek, who grew up visiting Disney World every year as a kid from Indiana and then became the CEO who nearly wrecked the place. Steve Jobs, who told Iger his cancer was back 30 minutes before they were supposed to announce the biggest deal of both their lives. Frank Wells, the Rhodes Scholar mountaineer who died in a helicopter crash and left a power vacuum that took a decade to fill. This is, I think, the most important company story we've covered. Not the biggest financially, that's probably coming, but the most human, the most layered, the one where the personal stuff and the business stuff are so intertwined that you can't pull them apart. Before we get into it, a quick note. The research for this episode is AI assisted. We use AI tools to help us gather and synthesize a massive amount of information. And because of that, some details might be slightly off or even hallucinated. If you hear a number or a date that makes you go, "Wait, really?" Check the sources we link at corrp.com/Disney. We do our best, but I'd rather be honest with you than pretend we got everything perfect. Also, AI pronunciations aren't always nailed down. If a name sounds a little weird, look it up. We're doing what we can with the tools we have. let's get into it. The Disney name is older than most people realize. It starts in Normandy, France. Not the beaches of D-Day, but centuries earlier. The family name is Disney, meaning from Isigny, a town on the coast of what's now Calvados in northwestern France. The Disney family crosses the English Channel with William the Conqueror in 1066, part of the Norman invasion that reshapes England permanently. They settle. The French name anglicizes over the centuries. Disney becomes Disney. The family spreads across England, then Ireland. Then, when the economic pressures of the 1800s push millions of Irish and British families across the Atlantic to Canada. Keppel Elias Disney and his wife Mary Richardson Disney are among them. They're Irish Protestants from County Kilkenny, specifically from the area around the village of Gowran, near the larger town of Freshford. They're farmers, not wealthy, not distinguished, just people trying to survive in a country where the land doesn't belong to them and the economic system isn't built for them. Sometime in the 1830s or 1840s, they pack up and emigrate to Canada, settling in Bluevale, Ontario, a tiny farming community in Huron County, about 150 kilometers northwest of Toronto. It's flat, cold, agricultural land, the kind of place where you work with your hands and don't expect much beyond that. Their son, Elias Charles Disney, is born in Bluevale on February 6, 1859. Elias grows up on the farm. He's a restless kid, energetic, ambitious in a way that doesn't quite fit the farming life. He wants more. In the early 1880s, he heads south, crossing the border into the United States. He tries his hand at a few things. He works on the railroad, specifically the Union Pacific, doing construction work out west. He tries gold prospecting in California. He bounces around. He's looking for something, but he hasn't found it yet. In 1888, Elias meets and marries Flora Call in Akron, Ohio. Flora is a school teacher, warm, patient, gentle in a way that Elias fundamentally is not. She's of German and English descent, raised in Ohio. Where Elias is stern, restless, quick to anger, and never satisfied, Flora is steady. She's the anchor. And she'll need to be, because Elias Disney is about to drag his family through a series of moves and failed ventures that would test anyone's patience. They settle in Chicago first. Elias takes up carpentry and helps build homes in the growing city. There's good work available because the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition is approaching and Chicago is booming with construction. Their first son, Herbert, is born in 1888, then Raymond Arnold in 1890, then Roy Oliver on June 24, 1893, then Walter Elias Disney on December 5, 1901. Walt is the fourth of 5 children. His sister Ruth is born in 1903. He's born at 1249 Tripp Avenue in the Hermosa neighborhood of Chicago, a working class area on the city's northwest side. The house still stands today. It's a modest 2-story wooden frame house, the kind of place that tells you everything you need to know about the family's economic position. They're not poor exactly, but they're not comfortable either. Elias works constantly. He tries different things. Nothing quite takes off. And then in 1906, Elias makes a decision that will change everything. He's fed up with Chicago, the crime, the noise, the corruption, the feeling that the city is no place to raise children. He buys a 45-acre farm near Marceline, Missouri, a small town about 100 miles northeast of Kansas City. Population around 4,000 or 5,000. It's the kind of place where everybody knows everybody, where the pace of life is measured in seasons rather than deadlines, where a kid can run free across open fields and nobody worries about where he is. Walt Disney is 4 years old when they arrive in Marceline. He's 8 when they leave. Those 4 years are the most important years of his life. Marceline imprints on Walt the way first love imprints on a poet. The farm is a world unto itself. Animals, open sky, the barn where Walt first starts drawing. His Aunt Margaret notices his interest in art and gives him paper and crayons. A local doctor, Doc Sherwood, pays Walt a nickel to draw a picture of his horse, Rupert. It's Walt's first commission. He's 7 years old. Flora encourages the drawing. Elias tolerates it barely. He's a man who believes in practical work, and art isn't practical. But Flora sees something in her son. She buys him supplies. She tells him to keep going. The Marceline farm has a tree that Walt loves. a cottonwood tree on the property that he sits under and sketches, the main street of Marceline with its small shops and friendly neighbors, will later become the template for Main Street, USA at Disneyland. The feeling of the farm, the animals, the open spaces, the sense of a world that's safe and knowable and good will become the emotional foundation of everything Walt creates for the rest of his life. Lady and the Tramp, Bambi, the entire pastoral sensibility of Disney animation. It all traces back to a 4-year-old boy arriving on a Missouri farm and falling in love with the world he found there. Walt himself understood this. Years later, long after he'd built an empire, he said, "More things of importance happened to me in Marceline than have happened since or are likely to in the future." But the farm fails. Elias Disney can't make it work. He's a carpenter and a laborer, not a farmer. The older boys, Herbert and Raymond, do most of the physical work, and when they leave home, tired of their father's strictness and the grinding labor, the farm becomes unmanageable. Elias falls ill with typhoid fever. By 1911, when Walt is 9, Elias sells the farm and moves the family to Kansas City. The Kansas City years are hard. Elias buys a newspaper delivery route, the Kansas City Times in the morning, the Kansas City Star in the afternoon, and he puts his sons to work. Walt and Roy deliver papers every morning starting at 3:30 a.m. It's dark. It's freezing in winter. Missouri winters are brutal. And Walt later described walking through snowdrifts in the pre-dawn darkness, struggling to stay awake. He's 9 years old when this starts. He does it for 6 years. This is important because it shapes Walt's relationship with work in a way that lasts forever. On one hand, he develops an incredible work ethic, the ability to push through exhaustion, to just keep going. On the other hand, the experience with his father, the forced labor, the strictness, the sense that childhood was something to be endured rather than enjoyed, creates a deep wound. Walt's entire creative project, if you look at it honestly, is an attempt to build the childhood he didn't get to have. Disneyland isn't a theme park. It's a 4-year-old's memory of Marceline, scaled up and perfected and made permanent so that no child ever has to lose it. Meanwhile, Roy is growing up alongside Walt, but on a different track. Roy is the steady one, the practical one. He graduates from Manual Training High School in Kansas City in 1912 and takes a job as a bank clerk at the First National Bank of Kansas City alongside his brother Raymond. Roy is learning money, how it works, how to manage it, how to make it grow. He's learning the language of business that Walt will never speak fluently but will desperately need someone else to speak for him. In 1917, the United States enters World War I. Roy enlists in the Navy, he serves, and then he contracts tuberculosis. It's a serious case, serious enough that he's honorably discharged and sent to the Sawtelle Veterans Home in Los Angeles to convalesce. He'll be there for years, in and out of treatment. Walt, meanwhile, is 16 and desperate to serve. He's too young to enlist, so he lies about his age, forges the birth date on his passport application, and joins the Red Cross Ambulance Corps. He's shipped to France in late 1918, arriving just after the armistice. He never sees combat, but he spends a year in France driving ambulances, ferrying supplies, and crucially, drawing. He decorates his ambulance with cartoons. He draws for the camp newspaper. He sketches constantly. The other servicemen notice Walt Disney at 17 is already the guy who draws. He comes home to Kansas City in 1919 and he knows what he wants to do. He wants to be a commercial artist. And what comes next, Walt meets the man who will help him create the most famous character in history. He starts 2 businesses and watches them both fail. He goes bankrupt at 21, and a brother lying in a tuberculosis ward in Los Angeles receives a pitch that changes both their lives. Walt Disney arrives back in Kansas City from France in the fall of 1919. He's 18 years old and absolutely certain about one thing. He's not going to work for his father. The newspaper route, the pre-dawn freezing walks, the years of forced labor, that's done. Walt wants to draw for a living. He gets a job at the Pessman Rubin Commercial Art Studio doing illustrations for advertisements, catalogs, and theater programs. The pay is modest. The work is unglamorous, but it's a start. And it's here at this small Kansas City art studio that Walt Disney meets a quiet, intense young artist named Iwerks. Everyone calls him Ub. He'll later simplify his name to Iwerks. He's the son of a German-American barber from Kansas City, and he is, by any objective measure, one of the most naturally gifted animators who will ever live. His hand is extraordinary, steady, fast, precise in a way that borders on mechanical. He can produce finished drawings at a pace that other artists find physically impossible. Later, at the Disney studio, he'll routinely turn out 700 drawings in a single day. 700. That's not a number someone exaggerated for a biography. That's the documented output of a man whose hand seems to operate on a different clock than the rest of his body. Walt and Ub become fast friends immediately. They complement each other perfectly. Walt has the ideas, the charisma, the ability to see the big picture, while Ub has the technical skill, the patience, the ability to translate vision into reality on paper. Walt later described the dynamic simply: he was very good at lettering and I did layouts in pencil. That's the modest version. The real version is that Walt was the engine and Ub was the transmission. Without either one, nothing moves. Their first collaboration is short-lived. Pesman Rubin lets them both go in January 1920, seasonal cutback. Rather than find other jobs, they decide to start their own company. They call it Iwerks Disney Commercial Artists. It lasts about a month. They can't get enough clients. The business fails, but the failure leads somewhere. Walt takes a job at the Kansas City Film Ad Company, which makes animated commercials for local businesses. 1-minute cartoons shown before features at movie theaters. This is where Walt discovers animation. Not drawing for print, drawing for motion. The idea that you can make pictures move, that you can create the illusion of life through sequential drawings, seizes him completely. He reads every book on animation technique he can find. He borrows a camera from the company and starts experimenting at home, shooting test animations on his own time. By 1921, he's convinced he can do this professionally. He leaves Kansas City Film Ad and starts his own animation company, Laugh-O-Gram Films. He's 20 years old. He recruits a small team of young animators, including Iwerks, who joins him, and they set up shop in a small office on East 31st Street in Kansas City. They make short animated fairy tales, modernized versions of Cinderella, Puss in Boots, Little Red Riding Hood. The films are charming, they're not bad, but the business side is a disaster. Walt can animate, but he can't manage money. He takes on projects he can't afford to finish. He overspends, he underbills. The company burns through its capital. One contract nearly saves them, a deal with a local dentist, Dr. Thomas McCrum, for a dental hygiene film called Tommy Tucker's Tooth, but it's not enough. Laugh-O-Gram Films files for bankruptcy in 1923. Walt is 21 years old, broke, and sleeping in his office because he can't afford rent. He's eating cold beans out of a can. The company he poured everything into is gone. This is the first of several moments in the Disney story where the whole thing almost ends before it begins. Walt has no money, no studio, no prospects. His father thinks he's wasting his life. Kansas City has nothing left for him, but Walt has one thing, a one-way train ticket to Los Angeles. He's going there because his brother Roy is there, still convalescing from tuberculosis at the Sawtell Veterans Home. California is where the movie industry lives, and Walt, even at his lowest point, still believes he can make it in the picture business. He arrives in Los Angeles in July 1923 with $40 in his pocket and a suitcase. He moves in with his uncle, Robert Disney. He tries to get work as a director at the established Hollywood studios, not as an animator, as a live-action director. Nobody hires him. Hollywood has no use for a 21-year-old from Kansas City with one bankrupt animation company on his resume. So Walt pivots back to what he knows. He sets up a makeshift animation stand in his uncle's garage and starts producing a new series of short films, the Alice comedies, which combine live-action footage of a real girl with animated backgrounds and characters. He's been working on the concept since Kansas City, and he has a sample reel. He sends it to Margaret Winkler, a New York film distributor who handles the distribution of several popular cartoon series. Winkler likes what she sees. She offers Walt a contract, 12 Alice comedies at $1,500 each. It's not a lot of money, but it's a deal, a real deal. And Walt knows he can't do it alone. He needs someone who understands money, contracts, business, someone who can handle the parts of running a company that have nothing to do with drawing. He goes to see Roy. Roy Oliver Disney is lying in a bed at the Sawtell Veterans Home, recovering from his latest bout of tuberculosis. He's 30 years old. He's been in and out of medical care for years. His career ambitions, banking, maybe business, have been put on hold by a disease that keeps pulling him back. He's stable, but not healthy. The doctors haven't cleared him. The smart thing to do, the sensible, Roy-like thing to do, would be to stay in the hospital, finish the treatment, get fully well, and then figure out next steps. Walt arrives late at night. He's excited. He has the Winkler contract. He lays out the plan. They'll start a studio together. Walt handles the creative side. Roy handles the business. They'll be partners, 50-50. Roy says yes. He leaves the hospital the next morning. He never has a relapse of tuberculosis again. On October 16, 1923, Walt and Roy signed the contract with Margaret Winkler and established the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio in the back of a small real estate office on Kingswell Avenue in Los Angeles. Roy puts up most of the initial capital, $250 from his own savings, supplemented by a $500 loan from their uncle Robert. The total startup capital is about $750. This is the founding of what will become the Walt Disney Company. Two brothers, a garage, a contract for animated shorts at $1,500 a pop. One of them just walked out of a tuberculosis ward. The other just went bankrupt. In what comes next, they build a real studio. They create a character that becomes a national sensation, and then watch him get stolen in the most devastating meeting of Walt's career. But the train ride home from that meeting produces something that changes the world.